My name is Ebony Jones, and I will be your instructor for today's recorded webinar. Now, we're going to talk about the various trends that are occurring in the modern business environment. The trends have changed the way that managers carry out business activities. To ensure sustainable organizational growth in today's emerging global economy, company management need to understand and accept the need to monitor and practice new trends. Expanding your small business internationally, it has many benefits. It can protect your company from the ups and downs from your local domestic economy, right? And it can also boost your brand image and, of course, grow your sales. Organizational competitiveness is determined by how well the company's management is aware and make decisions based on factors such as globalization, knowledge, innovation, and the emerging workforce. Again, my name is Ebony Jones, and welcome to today's webinar. Today, we're going to be discussing the following topics: entering the digital world, deciding on distribution methods, and understanding the global trade. Now, I'm pretty sure you're asking yourself, is my business ready to go global? Well, let's see. Let's follow that up with a couple more questions. Being a part of this global economy is high on the priority of many companies today. To see if you're ready to go global, we're going to ask these three questions. The first, let's discuss this. Expanding internationally will require a lot of time and also attention, right? You don't want your current business to suffer as a result. So make sure your system and operations can function smoothly without you, and that you have adequate expansion or source where you can obtain it, and that in regards to capital. So let's ask yourself this question: is your existing business operationally and financially stable? Global expansion works best when it's a natural progression. For instance, if you own an e-commerce website, you already get a fair amount of orders from customers overseas. Have you filled requests from international retailers about carrying your product line? Yeah, and these are good signs that potentially you're ready for global growth. So ask yourself, do you already have an international customer base? Consider that for a moment. So you want to make sure that you do thorough market research to see if your product has potential to sell in the markets you're considering. Investigate the competition, the target market, business climate, and distribution option, just as you would if you were expanding here in the States. Now, here's another question that you need to ask yourself. Is there a demand for your product in these markets? Before entering international markets, make sure that you protect your intellectual property and that you're not infringing on overseas company IPs, all right? Those are some things that you need to do. So ask yourself, do you have the appropriate trademarks, license, and copyrights? So now that you answered all those questions, we are going to figure out the logistics. So fun, right? The world is flat. That was said by the New York Times best-selling author, Thomas Friedman. What he exactly said was that supply chain is the fundamental to these leveling effects as barriers to trade and interdependencies are reduced across the globe. So supply chain managers are caught in the middle with changing decision environments, also a lack of clear information to help guide the whole decision process. But recently, due to the increased ease of global sourcing, manufacturing quality improvements overseas, and a reduction of glass-related tariffs, its market dynamics have changed substantially. So given this situation, global logistics and trade management are becoming so much more broader in level of concerns. It's therefore very, very crucial that supply chain and global logistic organizations put in place the people, the process, and also the technology required to deliver world-class cost and service performance. Now, to increase your chances of global success, it is generally best to start with a market that is similar to the United States, right? We're not going to bite off too much than we can chew. So in terms of language, culture, and business norms, for instance, it is easier for a US entrepreneur to start doing business in like Canada or the UK as opposed to Thailand. However, if you speak Thai and you also have business connections in Thailand, then that may be a better fit for you. So whether you're considering selling B2B or B2C, business to business, or business to customers, shipping products overseas shouldn't require a leap of faith. All right, we're going to be strategic about it. You're going to talk to your accountant and your business bank about the best way to structure your payment terms, methods of accepting payment, and other steps to ensure that you get what? Paid. We want you to get paid and be successful, right? Make sure you have the right business forms and contracts in place as well. You know, you need to be protected. You're going to thoroughly investigate the tariffs, shipping costs, and other additional expenses of transporting your product to another country or countries, wherever you're thinking about expanding. Can you build these costs into your pricing structure so that you can, again, have profit? Consider that. When deciding where and how to produce products for international markets, companies typically have a choice of 3 different strategies. The strategies, they vary in term and ways to do it, level of risk, cost exposures to exchange rate fluctuations, and leveraging of local capabilities. Companies need to tailor their strategy to fit their product in that country. So we're gonna discuss a little bit of that, okay? So first, we're going to go over outsourcing and offshoring. Offshoring means setting up operations in a low-cost country for the purpose of hiring local workers at lower labor rates. Offshoring differs from outsourcing in the way that the firm retains control of the operations and directly hires the employees. Whereas outsourcing delegates in the entire process, such as, let's just say, account payables, right, to the outsourced vendor. The vendor takes control of the operations and run the operation as they see fit. The company pays the outsourcing vendor for the end result. Now, how the vendor achieves those results of the end result is totally up to the vendor. Companies that choose to offshore face the same location criteria factors as companies that make production operation decisions. All right, so let's talk about the advantages of outsourcing. So the first advantage is the efficient process. So that would look like the outsourcer typically specializes in a particular process or set of processes, given them high level of that expertise within that process. The second advantage is access to specialized equipment that that may be too expensive for a company to invest in unless that process is their main focus, their chief business. So I want to give an example of this company named Diego. They are the largest purveyor of spirits. Now, they used the following criteria when choosing an offshore service location. So the first thing that Diego did was analyze not one, not two, but 19 locations in 14 different countries. You know, they didn't just leap into it, right? Ultimately, they ended up choosing Budapest, Hungary, as a location of its offshore and shared operations. And the primary criteria that Diego focused on was a low-cost base, both in terms of the startup and ongoing running costs. They also considered a favorable general business environment. This is very important, guys. The ability to find suitable staff, and particularly within language, you know, you don't want that language barrier. They also considered a high level of local and international accessibility with good transport points. Consider that, right? The attractiveness of international staff. And lastly, they considered a robust regulatory framework. Utilize their framework when considering this. Companies save on labor costs when offshoring, but you guys have to consider the hidden costs. It can be very, very significant. These hidden costs includes the cost of additional facilities, telecommunications, and technological infrastructure. Now, delays are a problem within the internal project coordination and the need for redundancy. That right there can even be more of a cost. So now let's touch on supply chain management. Supply chain management encompasses the planning and management of all activities included in sourcing and procurement, conversion, logistics. Importantly, it also includes coordinating and collaborating with channel partners. And these channel partners can be suppliers, intermediaries, third-party services, and providers, and of course, customers. In essence, supply chain management, it integrates supply and demand management within and across companies. So I'm going to list out several activities that's included in supply. I mean, excuse me, not supply and demand, but supply chain. First, I already gave out a little bit, demand management, actually. So demand management is, of course, the management of the demand. And what's that look like? The forecasting, pricing, and customer segmentation. The second one is procurement. Procurement is the purchasing, supplier selection, supplier-based rationalization too. You know, make sure that your supplier fits the code. Inventory management. You know, what do the raw materials look like? And also to finished goods. What does that look like? Warehousing and material handling. Production planning and control. Now guys, production planning and control is like the aggregate planning, workforce scheduling, and factory operations. Then you want to consider packaging. And that is both industrial and also for your consumers. Transportation management, order management, distribution, network design. That is encompassing the facility location and the distribution strategy. You got your homework cut out for you, right? And last but not least, product return management. You know, what's going to be the procedures of that? Those are the activities in the supply chain. And cross-organization teams within a supply chain can bring great perspective to the overall team. You will have representatives from all cross channels, and that's the design, business, purchasing, manufacturing, equipment purchasing, planning, your customers, logistic, information technology, and financing. They all bring their specialized knowledge to the benefit as a whole for the supply chain. Global business culture. Okay, so I want you to take a look at my screen. You see that necklace. Depending on where you're from, you know, just absorb it and look at these comments. They are commenting regarding a online retailer called Shein. They are based in China. And of course, their culture is a lot different from the culture here in America. And the symbol on this necklace, whereas it is highly and widely accepted in China, not so much in the States. So let's dive into global business culture. So keep in mind, conducting business in any foreign market it helps the world's economy. It is so beneficial. However, organizations, you know, they need to be more aware of the cultural differences within the global market. It is very difficult to make many ways to adapt or understand foreign cultures because there's such a vast difference, right? Also, the fact that many countries, you know, they may believe that their own culture is more superior than another. However, when organizations make the decision to enter into the global market, many of their own beliefs, your own beliefs, my beliefs, are to be set aside to successfully build a business relationship. Learning and fully understanding the country's culture, ethics, and language will give the organization a clearer understanding on how to conduct business deals, offer the appropriate product, Shein, and services to close a deal, to gain customers, to get paid. Most importantly, it shows respect. The key of global commercial success is knowledge. If you want to work efficiently across countries and continents, you need to have access to high quality information and local experts so that you can efficiently navigate today's complex, ever-changing global commercial environment. Successful cross-border collaboration requires global awareness and cultural fluency. If you work internationally, you need to develop the ability to work seamlessly across the barriers of culture, language, and geography. Culture has, you guys, so many different definitions, right? But I'm going to share my own personal definition of what culture is. Culture is our collective experience as a society and its impact on our reaction and decision making related to everyday facts and circumstances. We're looking at this example again, the screenshot of a necklace that Shein is selling. This is actually a swastika necklace. The Chinese brand Shein, they ended up apologizing for selling a Nazi symbol and claimed they were selling a Buddhist swastika, which has symbolized spirituality and good fortune for more than thousands of years. The Nazi swastika has a different design. So it is pointed clockwise and tilted in a bit of an angle. However, they look very, very similar, so similar. The two symbols can be confused easily, while one is highly offensive. And due to that, as you can see from these tweets, Shein received bad publicity. So during this webinar, we really want you to understand the importance of global business culture. So now we've touched on a lot. Let's consider the best practices. If you really feel you're ready to tackle the challenge of international business, I am going to give you 6 best practices to follow. Now, the first one, and I want to make sure I give you this disclaimer. The following advice that I'm about to provide are from other business leaders who have been there and done that. They were once in your shoes. So the first best practice that was provided by someone who has been there, done that, says find the right partners and teams. Yes, if you plan on expanding globally, you want a great team or partner. You know, your partner may even become like a mentor. You want someone that you can trust and someone who will vouch for you. The people you hire to deal with your overseas business partners and customers must be immersed in the local environment, but they should also be looking out for your best interests. Now, the second best practice is have the right infrastructure. It's so important to make sure that when you expand, you have the right infrastructure in place to ensure a smooth launch. Thirdly, consider the impact of any new ideas. You guys, don't you be walking around like Shein. We're not doing that, okay? Instead of only thinking about how your country and customers might receive the new idea, like example, the swastika, you know, in China, that is appropriate. In the States, that's not. So consider the impact of your new ideas. Instead of only thinking about how your own country customers might receive your idea, you'll need to think about how foreign customers will receive your idea. Always do your due diligence. Always do your due diligence. Before making major business decisions, you should think thoroughly of all possible scenarios, right? Especially during global expansion. Cheo, he advised those expanding their business internationally to spend time in your country. You know, you can consider it as an information gathering trip. Doesn't that sound fun? While doing so, you know, you should take out the time to focus on and develop a plan of moving forward, understanding the culture, the people, and the language during your informational gathering trip. Gather all that knowledge, absorb it, so you can make really good decisions. Fifth, be willing to change directions. Guys, this is so important, and embrace it. Allow it to filter through a lot of your decision making, that you know you are willing to change direction. Once you do expand, be prepared for bumps in the road. That's why you have to be okay with change. You know, you may have to change the way you operate in some ways. There is a founder and CEO, Adrian Fisher. He owns Property Simple, a real estate technology company. He has locations in US, Argentina, and Chile. He said this: do not be afraid to pivot. Guys, do not be afraid to pivot. During your consideration, your planning, keep that in the back of your mind. I am not afraid to pivot. Lastly, you may have to alter your customer support. Now, once you launch overseas, you're going to have a whole new customer base that you're going to have to support. Roger Shalaki, he's the CEO and founder of Book for Time. Book for Time is a provider of next generation wellness management software that operates in 70 countries. So he's been there, done that 70 times. Now, he said your current system of customer support will need significant change when you expand internationally. Whew. We went over a lot, right? Do you feel intimidated? Are you ready to continue going? Are you wondering if you still want to go globally? Is it worth it? It is. It is. And I'm going to provide just a couple more tips for you to make it worth it and show that you can absolutely, absolutely do that. You know, doing business around the world it could seem a long way from doing business in your local hometown. But each year, countless small business owners like yourself, they make that trek. They're doing it. And a journey is not short. Most journeys are long. So going globally can be boiled down to a series of steps. And these steps are going to be so basic that I'm going to provide. That's going to help you along the journey. First, start your campaign to grow by international expansion by preparing an international business plan. Yes. Now, if you have not even done your own local business plan, get on that, right? But an international business plan will help you evaluate your needs and set realistic goals. It's essential to assess your readiness and commitment to grow internationally before you get started. Plan, plan, and plan some more. After you've planned, let's do some research of the foreign market and identify other international markets, okay? So a great place to do this is the Department of Commerce. They provide a wealth of information on foreign markets for US goods and services. So we're gonna plan and we're gonna research. Remember, that site is the Department of Commerce. Now, after you've done your planning and your research, let's evaluate and select methods of distributing your goods abroad. How's it gonna get there? You know, you can choose from a variety of means of distributing your product, of course, from, are you gonna open a company-wide foreign subsidiary to working with agents or, representatives and distributors, or setting up a joint venture, or are you gonna ship it yourself? These are some of the things that you need to evaluate. How is that product going to leave you, your home base, to your consumer internationally? Once you considered your plan, you've done your research, you evaluated your distribution methods, what does the pricing look like? Earlier we talked about you getting paid, making a profit. Now let's set these prices, negotiate deals, and navigate the legal morass of exporting. That's very important too. You need to understand the exporting culture and the rules and regulations, culture, society, legal, and economic differences. Those all make exporting so much more challenging for business owners who have only operated in the United States. So another rundown. We're going to just do this rundown one more time, okay? So we have the plan. We're going to conduct our research. We're going to evaluate distribution methods. We are going to set our prices and understanding how we are going to navigate through all of the exportation. Now, there's a cost on your part, a cost of doing business. So tap into government and private sources of financing and figure out ways to make sure you are getting paid. Financing is, let's just be real, financing is always an issue, but government interest in boosting exporting and centuries of financial innovation, you guys, it has made getting financing and getting paid easier than ever. Last, go ahead and move your goods to the international market. Make sure your packaging, your packaging guys, and you label them in accordance with regulations. So we're not going to be sending out stuff and it's not within regulation. That's why we want to make sure that you are prepared before you go forward. So yes, make sure you're packaging and label them in accordance with regulation in the market you are selling to. The globalization of transportation systems helps here, but regulations are still different everywhere you go. Wow, right? Wow. Results are so important, so important. But to ensure that you get the results that you all need to be successful with expanding your business internationally, I'm going to give you a few takeaways. They're going to be 5, actually. The first one, let's talk about the first one. There are several strategic choices that are available to you when you decide on how to produce your product for international markets. The first, companies can manufacture their products in their home country and export them. Now, this strategy involves the least amount of change, but it also has some downsides, okay? Of higher supply chain cost, potential delays, exchange rate risk, and isolation from local knowledge, as in Shein. So, consider that and how that will contribute to your results. As we saw with Shein, it wasn't that because they were not immersed in the culture's local knowledge, the results were not good. Second, a company can build components in one country and do local assembly in another. Now, this strategy offers advantages for taxes and tariff incentives, but increased coordination costs and may be unfavorable country of origin effects. So consider that when evaluating your results. Let's go over a few more. Finally, a company can opt for local production. Now, this decision requires a careful, very, very careful evaluation, consideration of the risk and rewards of production operations in that foreign country, including assessing political risk. With the ever-changing political market, things are shifting. We see that in Russia. The skills of the local workforce is really important that you want to consider as well, and the quality of the infrastructure. Some companies also choose to outsource or offshore. I had it right the first time, offshore, their process. Either giving control to the outsourced vendor, remember we talked about that, but the control to the outsourced vendor would be predicated on them for the process and paying for the results. Or they can retain control of the process while taking advantage of lower labor rates. Consider that with your results. Supply chain management, remember, it's the coordination of a host of activity, and not only a host of activities, a host of other departments that can give a company a distinctive competitive advantage. Cross-organizational teams are the best way to take advantage of the perspective of each supply chain function for the benefit of all. That's the end of the webinar. I had so much fun hanging out with you this recorded webinar. Again, my name is Ebony. You can always connect with American Institute of Extended Studies on LinkedIn or Facebook. If you guys have any questions, comment on the video, and we'll see you next time.